That's a big concern with a van. If you have issues with it, you're really screwed because it unless you go out and buy another van and then completely fit it out, you're kind of stuck. Hello, how's it going? Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Midweek Modern Craftsman. This week, I am going to be speaking about work vehicles, what I choose to work out of, what I have worked out of, what's worked for me, what has not worked for me, and why I choose the operation that I do. I had someone reach out to me. I think I posted a picture or a video of the back of my work van, and they were asking me about my setup and why I prefer the setup that I do. So I'm going to elaborate on that this week. Hopefully, you guys are having a good week. Hopefully, you guys and girls are enjoying these midweeks. If you want anything to change, if you think it should take a different direction, if you have some ideas, some suggestions, please reach out to me. My email is tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. Definitely the best way to get a hold of me. If you have reached out and sent me an email, I have a list of everyone who has reached out to me. So I haven't forgotten about you. I'm recording one of these per week, sometimes two per week. So it's going to take me some time to get to everyone. But please don't stop with reaching out and suggestions. I definitely need the suggestions, the ideas, the inspiration to keep going with this. It is difficult to generate a fresh and unique idea every week. So I am relying on the listeners to help give me some inspiration as to what you want to hear about, whether it is related to what I do, to something that you have seen me to do, to a project, to a lifestyle choice, whatever it may be. But please reach out, shoot me an email, give me some suggestions, and I will do my best to get to them in a timely order. It really depends on how I'm feeling that week when I look in my phone at all of the suggestions and questions that people have asked. And some weeks I know exactly what I want to write about, and other weeks I just look through and I see what speaks to me and gives me the greatest amount of motivation at that time, so I can hopefully generate some good ideas for you, some good content for you. But as always, I appreciate you guys reaching out and helping me help you. I'm really excited to see what Doug pulls out of this episode for the thumbnail. He's been pulling some really neat faces that I make, some odd hand gestures. So I'm excited to see what he has to work with this week. Uh, Again, this week's going to be the age old question of truck and trailer, van, or box truck. Um, that's a loaded question, and obviously, it's the answer is going to be unique to your business, your location, your financial situation. There's a lot that play into this, but I will relate this to my experience and what I have learned and why I choose um, the setup that I currently have. So I'm going to go into pros and cons of each and then wrap it up with a summary of how I got to where I am now today. Uh, First off, pros for trailers. Um, the biggest thing for me and why I started working out of a truck and trailer was that I did not need to own two separate vehicles. So you're new in business, you have a lot of investments that you need to make in a business, tools, branding, marketing, legal, clothing, t-shirts, everything, the operating cost of running a business. And it's a scary, intimidating investment. Having a personal vehicle and then buying a work vehicle, obviously that's an added expense. Now you have two vehicles, two sets of um, insurance, registration, maintenance. It's an expensive purchase. So for me, owning a truck that I could use for family and keep my work separate in a trailer made the most amount of sense. Even as far as the house that we were in, it was a small house. it would be difficult to have all of the vehicles in one driveway. So that was the main factor for me working out of a truck and a trailer, was just the barrier to entry was lower from a financial perspective. Um, some other pros for trailers are that you can leave them on a job site. So if you have someone working on a job, I can bring the trailer to the job, I can drop it off. People can continue to work while I either run around to do errands, go on estimates, pick up material. People can continue to work while you are gone versus having a van with all of your tools in it. If your main vehicle breaks down, or if you need service, you can, even if your vehicle breaks down, you could have somebody tow or borrow a truck, rent a truck, and tow your trailer to the job site and continue to work while your main vehicle is down. So it's a workaround that makes it a little bit easier if you're working out of a trailer. They're relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things versus buying an additional vehicle. And you can own multiple trailers. So if you have a larger operation, you have multiple jobs going at once or different setups, you could have trailers at different job sites. You can also have trailers with different functions. I own an enclosed trailer that I use at this point for transporting goods, cabinetry generally, where I need a little bit more space. And I also have a dump trailer. So different uses. You could have a flatbed trailer, a landscape trailer for an equipment trailer. So obviously, you can fit the bill there depending on what you're looking to do. Um, Trailers are pretty roomy. You can get them in any shape, size, setup, customize them. You know, you're not going to a dealer and looking to buy a vehicle that they only produce a certain amount of options for. So you can get a trailer built to your spec pretty easily, which is a nice advantage of having a trailer. The cons for having a trailer, and feel free when these get posted to add cons or pros or what you work with. Anything that I miss, I'm sure that I am not going to cover everything here. This is for people who are somewhat debating what works for them. Um, a few things that come to mind here, mostly hooking and unhooking a trailer, is just a pain in the ass. Even if you have an electric jack on a trailer, a camera, all of these make it easier, but dragging a trailer to the job site, getting it into a driveway or out front, hooking, unhooking, it's just 5-10 minutes and it becomes a nuisance. It always seems that you don't leave enough time to doing it, you're running late. It's just a hassle. It's one of the biggest reasons that I switched to a van. I just got tired of hooking and unhooking and dragging a trailer around with me. If I needed to go run errands, I had a trailer with me. Parking was a pain in the ass. I started working in smaller, older neighborhoods. It was more difficult to get into a job site. And then I was still, a lot of times the customers wanted to get into the driveway, so I was still having to pull it at the end of the day. And then if I got home and we had to take my truck to go somewhere with the family or the dogs, I was having to unhook the trailer again. So it was a lot of work for a small operation. I think with a bigger operation, it makes more sense because you could drop a trailer off, leave guys there, pick them back up in an hour. It makes a little bit more sense for me, where I was, running around and it was mostly me or one helper. It just was a lot of extra work that I just got tired of doing. Um, Towing a trailer, obviously, you need a heavier truck. It puts more wear and tear on your truck. Um, I don't have any evidence to back this or support this, but to me, leaving a trailer that doesn't have a truck attached to it, or leaving a trailer at a job site where it's lettered and they know that it's a work trailer, I feel that they're more prone to theft or breaking in than a work van that may have an alarm on it. Um, it just seems as though that's the case. I don't have any evidence to support that. You could also break off a trailer lock and hook it up to a truck and take off with the entire trailer and all your tools, which is a little less, uh, a little harder to do with a van or a box truck. You're breaking into a car and then getting it started and pulling away with it. With a trailer, you have to have, if you have an employee or somebody else that's working with you, they have to be able to drive a truck and trailer. Not everyone's comfortable driving a trailer, backing up a trailer. I would rather have an employee drive a van than tow a large trailer with the truck. I just think it's easier for them. They're going to be more comfortable. There's less risk involved there. Um, let's move on to vans. Pros for vans. For me, a van, it makes it much easier to bounce around. If I have to run to another job, if I'm doing 2 jobs in a day, if I have to make a service call, I don't have to hook my trailer up, drive my trailer to a job site. It just makes it much quicker if I have to stop somewhere and measure. I'm not towing a truck and a trailer. I can literally get in my van, hop in, drive. It's a 14-foot box on the back of a cutaway, so it's a large van, but I can still get in tight areas. I can drive in the city. Not that I work in the city much, but I can drive in old neighborhoods. I can get into driveways. I can run and park in a normal spot in at the hardware store. It just makes it a lot easier, um, than towing the trailer around. Again, I'm not confined to where I can work because I need to be able to get a 30-foot truck and a 20-foot trailer into a spot. It just makes it a little bit easier with residential driveways and working in tighter, older towns. I always have my tools with me. If I had a trailer and I parked at a job and I needed to run on a service call or run to another job, I'd have to pack up what I think that I needed, which generally I'm forgetting something. So if I'm taking off now and I have to run to another job, I have all of my tools with me, whatever materials I need. I feel they're less prone to break in and theft. Again, I don't have evidence or data to support that. The other nice thing is that I now have a personal truck, work truck, personal truck that's work vehicle, and I have a work vehicle, so I'm not having to worry about if you're running a truck and a trailer where, hey, we're going to take the kids out to dinner. I have to load tools out of the truck or clean it up, get all the nasty crap out of there, dirt, dust, and put my kids in that car. So you have two vehicles. It's a little bit more convenient. My work truck is my work truck. My other truck, my family can ride in. If I need to bring them somewhere in my work truck, I can do that. But generally speaking, especially with younger kids, I'm not having to pull out car seats, put in car seats, make sure that the truck's clean. Makes it a little easier and more convenient. I also think vans make a little bit less of an impact during a renovation. I'm driving there in the day, I park in the driveway or out front. I leave at night. There's not a trailer in their driveway for months at a time. So I'm allowing customers to live a lifestyle that is less impacted by a renovation, a little closer to normal. So I'm freeing up those parking spaces, driveways. Um, Cons for vans. Now, this is where I have ran into this, and I honestly considered going back to a truck and a trailer when I was going through this. Not my ideal setup, but this is where it really comes into play. Um, if you have a van that breaks down, you really are screwed. There's no way to get that van to the job site with all your tools on it. So you're having to either rent a truck and then offload all of the tools out of that van and bring them to the job site, or even say you need to get an oil change or you need new tires, an alignment, you had a check engine light, whatever it may be, and you need to bring that truck in for service. Oh my goodness, excuse me, I am tired. I've been working too much. So if I need to bring my truck in for service, say I have a check engine light and I don't know what it is, I'm not sure how long I'm going to be without that van. So I have to pull out what tools I think I need for how long I think I need them. Um, so if I forget a tool, I either have to go buy it or I have to go back to the dealership or whoever's working on the truck and get the tools out that I need. So with a trailer, if your vehicle breaks down, again, you could borrow a truck, you could rent a truck, and you could tow all of your tools to that job site. With a trailer, there's less things to go bad and they're readily serviced. So you're not typically without a trailer for a very long time. Doesn't have a motor, doesn't have electrical system that's going to go bad like a car. So generally you're not saying, hey, my trailer was in the shop for 6 months because they didn't know what was wrong with it. As I'm sure a lot of you probably remember, my van that I still have today essentially was a lemon for the first year, 18 months of ownership. I think it was in the shop for over 60 days. It would throw check engine lights and then seize up on me and go into limp mode. But unfortunately for myself, there's no lemon law with commercial vehicles in New Jersey. So I was not able to sell the van because it had issues that I could not resolve. It was worth basically nothing. I was still paying for it, and I could not just afford to go buy another truck and say, "Hey, I'm going to give up, the 40, 50 grand I paid for this and just call it a wash." So I've really struggled with having a vehicle that I purchased brand new that was just not dependable. One day it would work, another day it wouldn't work, and then I'd have to bring it into the shop, and it would be there for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, few days. Never know how long it's going to take. A lot of times they couldn't figure out what's wrong with it. It was one thing, it was the other. So again, I think it was in the shop for over 60 days for the first 18 months of ownership. So that really was created a lot of stress, um, a lot of issues for me trying to make money, trying to run a business. So that's a big concern with a van. If you have issues with it, you're really screwed because it unless you go out and buy another van, and then completely fit it out, you're kind of stuck. You don't have a way to get your tools to the job. It's in a shop, so that's something to consider when buying a van. If you can afford something that's new, that's reliable, which is what I intended to do, which didn't work out. But that's something that is a big consideration that I think that the advantage and the benefit definitely goes to trailers in that case. The other big hurdle with vans is the cost of ownership. When you're new in business, it's expensive to own two cars. It's expensive to buy a new reliable van. Now you have maintenance costs, the cost of the vehicle, insurance cost, lettering the vehicle. So it twice the amount of payments for a vehicle. So it's tough when you're starting out to be able to afford two vans, or two vehicles. So that's definitely a con for vans. Another issue along the same lines, if you need to bring your vehicle in for work, is that if you have to go run errands, say you have a guy or two on a job site and you have to go run errands, you're now taking the van with all the tools in it. And if they need some consumables, if they need a tool, you're playing the game of, hey, what might you need in the next 2 3 hours that's in the van? Go get that out. And then if they don't have it, it's them either coming to where you are, pulling the tools out, or going and buying what they need. So that's a difficulty with the vans. That's something to consider. When I first went into business, I was working out of a small Toyota Tacoma that was my personal truck from when I was 18 years old. I started my business when I was 23. So when I graduated from college, I drove up to Rhode Island. I bought an ARE utility cab that had the folding sides. It didn't have any boxes in it. So I built some plywood boxes and I fit that thing out so that I could carry all the tools that I had to be doing carpentry work. and then I just packed the back of it. It was to the point where anything that I needed, I had to unload everything else to get to it with vacuums, saws. It was a real pain in the ass picking up materials. It just made it really difficult. So at that point, I could not afford a new truck. So I bought a very small enclosed trailer that my Tacoma could tow. That worked for a while. And then I acquired more tools and I outgrew that trailer. At this point, we were looking to have a family. So I bought a full size truck. Um, at that point, I knew that it was only so long with the trailer. I still couldn't afford a separate work vehicle, so the idea was to have the four-door truck that I could take the kids in and keep all of the work stuff in the trailer. Kill two birds with one stone. I outgrew that trailer. I bought a bigger trailer. And then that was great. I loved it. Other than the headaches that I said with hooking and unhooking, but still my costs were low. It was mostly me and I had a helper, so I wasn't running multiple jobs. It was a little bit of a nuisance, but I was saving money. And then it got to the point where we did have kids and life got more hectic and I really just got tired of transporting the trailer around. So I bought my box truck that was I had a lot of issues with. I really liked that setup. It's a 7x14 box. I can fit everything in it. It's great, super convenient. Take away all of the issues I had with that truck if it were dependable. It's a great option for me with remodeling. As business grew and I had a guy with me for a long time, I ended up buying a mid-size Transit. So it was the mid-roof, the longer wheelbase, which was great for a helper. They could be on a job and have their tools set up, and if they needed to grab tools from my truck or pick up material, it saved me a ton of time. But it really didn't make sense when I had two people on the same job because generally the tools were coming out of my truck. The At that point, the van was just getting used to come back and forth to work. Um, so I lived with that for a while. When COVID hit, that guy was no longer working for me. I wasn't ready to put somebody else in a van. Um, I used it some on my own, but realistically for me, the box truck with the 7x14 and being able to walk back there made way more sense. If I specialized, if I did a single trade, I would definitely go the smaller van route. It's just easier to park. You can go through drive-throughs. I could grab coffee. Um, Fits better in driveways, less expensive. The cost of ownership's lower. Fuel mileage is better, less wear and tear on brakes, tires, all that stuff. But with my remodeling business and performing so many trades, I hate going home and having to load up specialty tools or just tools that I need for that day that I couldn't fit in a smaller van. So when COVID hit, wasn't sure what was going to happen. I unloaded that van and kept my larger van. Um, so I still have that larger van. I don't commute very far for work. My van is a 2015. I've owned it since new, and I just rolled 60,000 miles on it. So you could tell I don't drive that much in it. That's 8 years at this point, and I have 60,000 miles. So around 6,000, a little more than 6,000 miles per year that I'm driving, and that I just work in the same towns. I don't work too far from home. So it's paid off. No need for me to buy a new van, but I did have a pickup truck that went down, and I still have my enclosed trailer that I use for transporting cabinetry, and I have a heavier dump trailer that I use in lieu of getting dumpsters on jobs. And realistically, if I didn't use that, and I didn't use the truck for family purposes, I would probably, like, a perfect scenario for me would be to get, again, that 7x14 box truck, but something that was heavy enough to pull a bigger trailer. So I could have a personal car or personal truck that I didn't need the capacity to be able to tow a 14,000 pound dump trailer. Um, My box truck is a transit platform. It's a 350 HD, but they just they don't have the towing capacity to be able to handle a trailer of that size. There are vans out there that can do that. It's just not what I bought because I had a diesel truck at the time that I didn't need that towing capacity. Um, but if I think for me, the ideal setup would be a work truck that were able to tow a a heavier trailer. So if I were going to set up a job for demolition, I could take my van and I could hook the trailer up and bring it to the job site all in one shot. Right now, I'm having to take my pickup truck, bring the dump trailer to the job, drop it, go back, grab my van, and then head out. If I have someone working for me, have them drive the van, I drive the truck and trailer. It would be really nice to be able to have a van that could tow a heavier duty trailer, even if I need to go unload the dump trailer in the middle of a job, not having to head back to my house, grab my pickup to dump. It's just a lot of back and forth. But again, my truck is 8 years old, but I only have 60,000 miles on it. Knock on wood. I haven't had a ton of issue. Well, it has a perpetual check engine light on it that just all the time is on. That I have a code reader in my truck, and I'm just like, if it's nothing that's going to put it in limp mode, I just don't fix it at this point. It's something I've lived with for 8 years. That it's kind of a piece of crap in that sense. So I just live with that. But uh, I haven't had any issues that have put it into limp mode in a few years. Knock on wood. I'll circle back if anything changes. But it just doesn't make sense for me to buy a $60,000-$70,000 van right now, when mine is not that old and it's still running fine. Um, and not creating too much headache for me. But that would probably the next purchase would be something that were a little bit heavier that I could tow with. I think that would simplify my life some. That would also allow me to have a smaller personal vehicle, rather than a full size truck. So for me, that's the ideal setup. Um, I want to remain as lean as possible. That's just the way that I like to run my business. A lower cost of ownership, a lower overhead. It just gives me peace of mind. It reduces my anxiety. It quells my anxiety and having to ensure that I have enough work lined up to offset that overhead. I like to be as lean as possible so that if I want to take some time off, um, I don't have a ton of mouths to feed, and I don't have this high operating cost that just is keeping me up at night thinking about what about this, what about that. I have to pay this bill, I have to pay that bill. I'd rather keep a lean operation, with a vehicle that covers all the bases for me. So if I were to choose a setup, that would be it for me. I don't think that there's a perfect setup. There's issues with fans. There's issues with trailers. It's about where you work. If I was in a more rural location, I would definitely have a truck and trailer because I wouldn't have any issues with parking. I'd be able to leave my trailer on a job site. It it would be a lower cost of ownership than having two vehicles. Um, I'd get a huge trailer that I could keep everything on, material storage, all of that, but I don't live in a rural area, so that doesn't work for me. Right now, I can afford to have two vehicles. That wasn't always the case. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to pay that additional cost. If I had crews working for me, trailers may be better because it would be less expensive to have multiple trailers fit out on a job that I could jockey around. Rather than multiple box trucks or multiple vans. So it's about what works for you, where you work, what your financial situation is, what your business operation is, how much of an overhead you want, and what you want your business to look like, how you want to spend your time. There's no right or wrong answer. Um, but hopefully this gives you a little insight as to why I chose the path that I did and why I have the setup that I do. I really like having a truck that I can walk in, not worry about headroom. If I have all my tools in there, I don't have to worry about what tools go in because of weight. I keep some material in there if I need to pick up long lengths of material. I can fit 16-foot lengths of trim in. That's a huge deal for me. With the smaller van, I can't do. You're worried about weather, strapping stuff down. That was another thing I hated with the pickup truck. If I ran out to go grab material and I went to go grab trim, I was tying trim down to racks and worried about, is it tied down well enough? Is the wind going to get it? Is it going to rain? Do I have to wrap it? Um, a lot of times I'd have to leave stuff in my shop until the next day because I didn't want to strap it up and leave it overnight in case it rained or because it was too cold, because it looked like nasty weather. So now I can load up everything the night before. It can sit in my van locked, and I could just head to the job in the morning and not have to worry about getting out there early to get everything loaded up. So that's what works for me. Those are the reasons they work for me. Those are the concerns and the possible pitfalls of each. Love to hear what works for you guys, your perspective on things, what I forgot, what I didn't mention. Definitely reach out. You can comment on the post. You can shoot me an email, and I will hop on here and spread the word about your insight to this as well. But hopefully, this helps you guys out if you're in that position where you have to make a decision or you're just curious. I like the 7x14 box size. 16 is nice. It gets to be a little big. I do have a cutaway so I can open the door and fit 16-foot lengths of trim in. If I didn't have a cutaway, I may go with a 16-foot box just because I do a fair amount of trim work. I like buying long lengths, and I like being able to transport them without having to have a door open. Being able to load them the night before and keep everything closed up is a really good size for me. 7 feet's a good width. 8 feet, even 8-foot trailers, they get to be really wide, difficult to drive, difficult to see. Even my trailer was a 7x14, but I got the tires tucked underneath of it. So it was essentially the same wheelbase as a 16 or a 6-foot wide trailer that had the tires and wheels on the outside. So you lose a little bit of space on the inside with the wheel wells. But for me, they just fit in a driveway better. It was easier to navigate, to park. So again, it depends on where you work and what you do and what fits your needs. So hopefully that helps you guys out. You enjoyed this podcast, this blog post. I will be back every week with more blog posts for you, more recordings for you. Please reach out to me, spread the word about this. Everyone has been great. The support has been great. It's really been gratifying to do this and spend more time in this. So I appreciate all you guys reaching out, all the support, all the suggestions. Keep it up, please. Don't leave me hanging. And I will catch you guys next week. As always, thanks to our partners, Buildertrend, Anderson. Without you guys, we couldn't do this. So if you have an opportunity to use their products or their systems, check them out. We always appreciate you guys patronizing those businesses because without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. So I'll catch you guys next week. Thank you.